We've spoken about the subject matter before, legal person, past videos, but we're just trying to re-clarify. I think there's still confusion. People are confusing law with God's law with legal, and then they get confused when they're in the sandbox of the legal system, dealing with terms involving the word legal or the term legal person. So, legal person, we're going to just read a standard definition. There's many places to find it, so I just picked one. Um, this one just appeared predominantly on the internet, so we're going to use this one for argument's sake here. Legal person. In law, a legal person is any person or thing such as enter into contracts, sue and be sued, own property, and so on. Okay, so we're dealing with economics here. The only purpose for a legal person is generally in this sense dealing with money. The reason for the term legal person is that some legal persons are not people. Why would they say that? Why would they say that? Because when we're understanding legal person, there's a lot of debate on this. People are arguing, oh, I'm a natural person, so they can't charge me. Taxes. These debates have lost in courts of law, where people have argued that they were a natural person. They're not in the standard sense of a legal person, which would be like a company or a corporation. So they argued they didn't need to pay tax. These arguments all failed. So just someone whistling Dixie on it, they were never going to win because they didn't understand what they were arguing. There is a term natural person in the legal system, but it's really a natural legal person. So the closest you could get to being not a corporation would be as the operator of it, or the one who operates this company as a director. You're just a natural legal person. You've been Latin, of course, you would have a legal surnamed tag on you for working the commerce end, so they'd know which Smith was involved in business or which Taylor was involved in business. But that's the closest you're going to get as an individual in the legal world as a person, a legal person. So when it's said here that they do not register, they're basically legal persons are not people, okay? That some legal persons are not people. It brought me back to a letter that was pumped out by offices of the Registrar General in various places. In particular, Ontario would write back a lettered standard to anybody who inquired anything about the birth certificate system or the registration system and say that the Office of the Registrar General, to be clear, does not register people, it registers events. They also even stated that the birth certificate was never intended for legal identification, for personal identification. Now, what were they really saying? Well, they're saying this was not intended to be a natural person. It wasn't for that purpose, as you would think an individual is in society operating. So they're not registering people. Now, what is the Office of the Registrar General? Well, the Office of the Registrar General is a corporation, it is a trust, and it is a legal person in law. So it operates under the constraints of all that. So anything that it sends out is coming from its legal person. It didn't say that it was a natural person. It said that this is just basically a legal person because they're not registering people. So we have to really get our head around that concept. It's confusing the world of man and its laws, which are quite satanic, because it seems to have an essence of misleading and deceiving or inducing a belief in something that is false to appear to be true. So we have to be very careful to get our heads around that, because most of the time we seem to have our head in the legal sandbox of man, and then we're trying to take it into more of a reasonable, truthful level that is not based or is not the foundation of the legal world. So the confusion happens because we're mixing the two things together. We're mixing the spiritual world of truth with the non-spiritual world of legal. And therefore we get confused thoughts that are going to not bring us to a conclusion. So what they were telling you was this document, even though you may ask for it, request for it, you just have an ability to request to have it. You're asking to be known or to be in control or surety for this certificate. So therefore, it does not mean you are that. Always take a little test, put it on the table, take a hammer to it. If you smack it and you go, ouch, then it is you. But in the absence of that reaction, physical, it's not you. It came from that office, and this is their person, not your person. You have no signatures on it. Another clarity of fact. They never asked you to sign this when you hit 18, legal election, so that you are the person on this. No, you're requesting to be known, to be in charge of this, to be surety for it. It is a government bond, debt bond. We've already talked about that. The world of legal does not have grace. So it's not operating in Jesus Christ. It's operating in the world of debt, which has no grace. So we go further in the definition. I'm just going to reread that whole sentence again. The reason for the term legal person is that some legal persons are not people. Companies and corporations are persons. The Registrar General's office you get the certificate from is a corporation in law. Okay? So therefore, legally speaking, they are not people in the ordinary sense. So now they cover themselves in the definition. They say that in the ordinary sense, legal persons are not people. So they're just taking you a stretch off of it a bit in their world to help you comprehend. So they're bringing you back to the natural person or the natural legal person, not a natural individual in reality. So we've got some bad vocabulary that we've learned, like the word smart, thinking it means in wisdom, which it doesn't. It means injury. We operate in these bad words that confuse us, and then we start to make comments on it. It requires you to do the due diligence to understand what we're talking about or comprehend this subject matter, because if you don't take the time, you're just going to keep on banging your head into the wall and running into the same problems. If you are basically using this benefit and privilege, you requested it, then you basically have taken a trust position with it, and you're now responsible because you're saying you are this now. And that's it. That's why their office is not going to show up to the court. They're not in there. They know you're going to come in there because you've signed on suretyship for it. And that's all that's required in order for economics and debt to occur. This is probably the longest video we've done in a while because it has a lot of content. I also recommend you to read Black's Law Dictionary defining the word natural. And it will tell you that natural in its real sense is in opposition to the word legal. It doesn't mean the same. But when you want to use it in the legal, it's now combined in there to kind of have a make-believe character who's a natural legal made-up fiction operating